Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing a rear tow hook on my Camaro ZL1, my 2018 Camaro ZL1. I've had this tow hook sitting around on my garage shelf for over a year now, and so finally getting around to installing a rear tow hook. You might ask, why do you want a rear tow hook on any car? For my purposes, I track my car quite regularly. And there are times where you may get stuck in a sand pit, you may have a 4-off on track, you may have a mechanical where a front tow hook does not provide the right access to a recovery vehicle. So there are not very many good options if they have to do a rear pick on the back of the car and not mess something up. So there's multiple suspension members, there's not really a cross member that they can hit. And so they're going to be pulling you out on something that's not supposed to have a load on it. And it could damage your suspension, mess up your alignment, and a whole lot of other things. It also, even on the street, you might be good to have a rear pull point. So today, this is what we're going to be installing. It is the ZL1 Addons Lite tow hook. And it comes with a specific bracket like this that will go on the top of the rear bumper bar, and I'm going to have to drill through the rear fascia, the rear bumper cover. So we're going to do a lot of measurements both before we pull it, after we pull it, and before we drill it to make sure that we don't have a hole in the wrong place on the back of my painted bumper. So if you look here, we're going to not follow the GM manual, the shop manual exactly. So if you look here, you can see we're going to be pulling the rear tail lights, and the reason for that is the bumper cover actually ties into the tail light. And so instead of trying to pull that out and maybe scratch the bumper, we're going to go ahead and pull the tail light. You can see here, this is how it's going to come off. There are 9 screws total. And then there are, this is not what I'm going to be doing, but it's the best view. There's a rear guide for the bumper, and we're going to be pulling the sides off. Then we're going to have to unattach several clips here underneath the taillights and in the center, and then that'll expose the bumper bar, and we'll mount the bracket that I just showed you on the top of the bumper bar. So the tow hook comes in a nice little box here. And it's all ready assembled. There is a collar where you can set with an Allen screw the right depth, so it'll be straight up and down, or I guess straight horizontally whenever you finally mount it. So we're just going to go over real quick the tools that I'm going to use today. I actually am doing this after the video because I ended up using quite a bit more than I thought. So first is the impact for the wheels and tires, impact socket, torque wrench to put the wheels back on. Then I use both a square and a level to try to get the proximity of the first hole the best I could. I use a round file to smooth things out. Impact, drill for both drill bits, and I use several different grinding stones to grind out and smooth the hole out after I use the round file. Wax pencil, Sharpie, pencil. Use a lot of masking tape to make sure that you don't scratch things up. I went in first without it and unfortunately scratched the car a couple times. Trim tools, both plastic and metal. Use a punch to start your holes when you drill through the aluminum bumper. 8mm wrench and T15 Torx. I think that's about everything I used. It was, like I said, it was a fairly difficult project, and we'll get right into it. So you can see we marked 2 locations on the back with painter's tape and a pencil. So looking at other installations of this, I know that these sensors sit on top of the rear bumper cover, and so we've come straight off of that, and then I've used the level to make sure that we have a straight up and down line and a straight line there. I don't know if it's going to be precisely right here, but it's going to be close. I've also done the other side as well. There is a wiring harness that runs on the top of the bumper bar. It's going to be right around here. And I want to make sure that I've got a couple different options. I just marked it there for a secondary choice. So I'm going to pull the rear wheels off because it provides easier access to some of the screws that are in the rear wheel wells. You also, since I'm going to be pulling the tail lights, I'm going to go ahead and do that before I put the car up on jack stands, just because I don't want to break my back. It'll be easier to access those few screws that I need to do. So you just take the 4 little fake plastic nuts off. This trim piece comes right out. And then there's some trim screws, one there, and one up here on each side. We'll use a trim tool to take those off so we don't booger them up. And then there are 3, they're the GM style interlock connectors. We'll also use a trim tool on that, and we'll pull that right off. Then we'll have access to the screws on the taillights. The taillights will come right out the back. So just work the trim tool slowly underneath and just kind of pry. This one's come out a few times, so it is not just perfect. And then we'll do the one right here. And then there's one kind of hidden. Feel it better than you can see it. Use some bigger trim tool here. There we go. Pop right out. So we're going to use our little flat blade trim tool to slide it right under the fastener, the internal one. Just lift it up a little bit. Do it on all of them. There's 3 in total. You could get a flathead screwdriver or something else in here, but this is a good way to make sure that you do not scratch your trim pieces. Pop it all the way out. That popped all the way out. So I'm just kind of stuck it in there a little bit more recessed. Thing to do is just take your time with these because they're just plastic. So if you look here, these things have kind of an odd shape. They're keyed, so they can only go in one way. Don't force them, they just go right in. And after they do that, after you get these internal pieces out, this piece will lift right out. That part just popped out, but we'll get it. Kind of give it a good little tug here. There it goes, and then there's an electrical connector that we will disconnect. So the reason you want to pull the tail lights from the car are there are 4 tabs on each side. And theoretically you could get to them, but man, it provides instant access of both sides. So it's a lot easier, work smarter, work not harder, and give yourself the right access to get to these parts. So we have a little cordless impact here from Rigid that I love. It's one of the micro ones. We've got a T15 Torx. Take these inner liner bolts out. If you're working on a GM car, There are a lot of these T15 Torx, lots of 7mm screws, and having an impact is really the only way to do it. Otherwise, you will be wrenching with a normal ratchet. You just need to be careful when you put them back in, so you do not over torque them, because they just have these little clips that they're screwing into in most occasions. 7mm here on the bottom. This is a 1/4 inch adapter, impact adapter. You can just get them at Home Depot or whatever. It doesn't really matter what brand. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 7mm and 1 T15 Torx here. A little bit of sand there for David Lloyd. There we go. Now we'll do the other side and get the internal bolts and the fenders, and then this thing should be about ready to come off. So an important part I failed to mention is there's the harness. There are 2 connectors right here for the rear bumper that need to come off, and then the screw that you need to access is right here. Should be another 7mm screw. And that's a different size than all the other ones. And these have the safeties on them. Just pull the red switch back. I'm gonna have to get in a little bit better position to get these. I don't know why that came off. There you go. Let me just pull this one off. All right, so we got the connectors loose. One of them was just a little difficult. The best thing is just take your time. Use a little bit of screwdriver to get a little bit more leverage on it. I also pulled it out of its location so I could actually work on it better. So I got it out. We'll do the other side, and then we'll be about ready to pop this thing off. Okay, so we have all the fasteners out. There's a guide right here, and then there are the clips in the back. So this is supposed to just pull right out. Goes. Now we'll do the other side. Okay, so then we have these clips. Should be pretty easy. We'll get more plastic trim tool. They're released. Do these. They're released. Almost. And then there's some tricky clips that are under here, so we're going to turn the camera off and try to get those without filming. There it goes. Alright, now we need some help to put this down somewhere. Call the wife. Hey, Carrie! No wife, so we will improvise. So here's what the back of the car looks like without the bumper cover on it. So the challenge here is going to be we don't have a lot of measurement locations to judge where to put our bracket. So I'm gonna I'm probably gonna have to put it on and off a couple times and make sure that I've got the right spot before I start to drill a hole. I'll tell you one thing, this is not a for the faint of heart install. So I tried the best to triangulate some measurements, but there really wasn't a good datum to take measurements from. So I looked at some pictures from some previous installs that other people had done, and then I actually just had to drill a pilot. So eyeballed it. I tried to use, there's the third member that attaches to the bottom here, and so I tried to use that as a guide, and then the hole is slightly lower than the backup sensor, so try to get it in there. I've got the bracket installed behind it. I'll pull the tape behind it, see if I can't centralize it, and then I'll fix the bracket in the back, and then hopefully I won't have to waller this out too much. But anyway, not for the faint of heart. Okay, so the first hole was a little low, so we went up. It's still okay. We'll be able to cope this out, but I need to get back behind it and grind the structure behind it a little bit more. So just going slow, and hopefully this will look fine when it's all done. So you're going to need to grind away some of this bracket right here. You can see the hole through the other side. You need to make sure that you got plenty of space so you can get the right angle to get into the bracket. So I'm just using a grinding stone in my drill. You want to make sure you do not get into the wiring here. So it goes into the airbag sensors and a whole bunch of other stuff back here. So it's not the prettiest, but we actually got pretty close. So I'm going to finish the rest of the hole by hand with a file, and we should be able to smooth this out. But I'm not sure if you can see, but we did get it lined up. Now, here, let me see. Yeah, there you go. So I have not put the bracket on because obviously I want to move the bracket, not move the hole that I've just made. So we'll start to file it out and slowly, and then we'll fix the bracket on the back, and then we'll drill the bracket and put this bumper back on. Well, that was certainly nerve-wracking, but it actually ended up being okay. So I just finished it off with a round file and made sure that we evened the hole out, and we kept it lined up with the bracket. The bracket, this is tightened up into the bracket, but the bracket is not bolted to the bumper bar yet. I'll mark it, I'll drill it. This has to come off again, then hopefully we'll be done. So we have our bracket drilled here, bolted on. We'll put the bumper cover back on and do a final fitment check, make sure that we don't need to adjust anything, to the tow hook in, and then bolt her back up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It is not for the faint of heart, not a first timer install. So you really have to take your time. You have to make sure that you got everything measured the best you can, even though you basically have to drill a blind hole to start with, and then just really take your time, relax, take a break if you get frustrated. Hey, so we got the little project done here, the tow hook's on. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's like a 9 out of 10. It was very challenging though, especially with trying to drill the first hole blind. Now I tried to use the best judgment I had, but this is something that unless you're experienced, you probably shouldn't try yourself. So here's the tow hook. You can tell that I had to slightly oval the hole a little bit after I got the bumper in place. I was having a little bit of difficulty getting it lined up, but it's in. I think it looks great. It does not interfere with the backup camera, so the proximity sensors and everything work fine. So this is a win. Thanks for watching. Hey, so if you like this video today, please do me a favor and hit subscribe. It helps the Racing for ALS channel grow. Thank you very much.